The Prepper Podcast, episode 27.
We've got to know whether or not their president's a crook.
The American people would never vote for socialism. He said, under the name of liberalism, the American people will adopt every fragment of the socialist program.
The Prepper Podcast is an up-to-date survival podcast based on military, wilderness, and modern-day survival and may be found at theprepperpodcast.com. I am Ken Jensen, and this is the podcast about everything survival. My goal is to teach you strategies on self-reliance and to develop survival skills and critical thinking in everyone, resulting in a more resilient and enjoyable life. This is episode 27, and today I'm actually not even going to be talking about what I was going to. Today I was going to do a topic about chickens and their benefits and stuff, but instead I am going to be doing a little bit of a rant on the Cliven Bundy, James Yeager, and the Bureau of Land Management happening over in Nevada. That's what I'm going to be talking about today. I'm not going to be talking about what I actually had planned. I have no show notes for the day, so I'll have to make up some. I just thought of this topic about 5 minutes before I got on the mic. Understand, guys, I have been up. I'm at hour number 18 for the day, and normally I would have this stuff done ahead of time. I would have this stuff done, but last weekend was a really busy weekend for me, so I didn't get a chance to record this podcast. So I'm doing this late in the day, and I'm just trying to get this out for you guys because I don't want you guys to have to go a week without it. So instead of chickens, we're going to be talking about the land issue out there in Nevada. Now, let's go ahead and do a little housekeeping. I have an actual official title for the little budget thing that I've been talking to you guys about. It's called How to Be a Prepper, 1 Year Emergency Preparedness List for Survival. All right, it's an all-inclusive plan to build self-reliance that will outlast greater than a 1-year disaster, all while helping you become debt-free and build a resilient investment portfolio and a resilient life. If any of you guys are actually in my beta test group, I would like for you to comment on the show notes today and just let me know how you are liking it. All right? And remember to go to theprepperpodcast.com/iTunes. If you go to theprepperpodcast.com/iTunes and you can give me a review, you can tell people how much I am awesome or how much I suck. And you can give me a 5-star, a 4-star, and hopefully not a 1-star review. All right? So don't forget to go to theprepperpodcast.com/iTunes. All right. Let's see. What else? Well, I guess we're just going to go ahead and get into the topic now. All right. So here we go. I know, first and foremost, that I am going to be making every single one of you, well, at least half of you guys, I'm going to be making you angry by the end of this. Okay? I know that this is a heated debate issue and stuff like that. And sometimes it's going to sound like I am on one side of this matter, and other times it's going to sound like I'm on the other side of the matter. And the reason is because this is all to give you factual information about the Cliven Bundy issue, okay, on the Bundy Ranch over in Nevada, okay? So I'm going to get started now, and wait until the end of the podcast before you send me all your hate mail. All right. So, let's discuss the facts about the fiasco involving Cliven Bundy, James Yeager of Tactical Response Gear, who is actually in my neck of the woods, and the Bureau of Land Management. Now let's look at why this all happened. Cliven Bundy has been ranching on land in Nevada for a long time, and the Bureau of Land Management right now wants him to stop ranching on this land because it is considered by the Bureau federal land. All right, so I'm not going to try to give you a bunch of opinions at first. At first, let's go through some facts, okay? This could get boring because there's going to be a lot of dates thrown in there, but I will try to make it a little bit more interesting. And if you are following this story, you may know half this stuff already. But according to Cliven, I may be mispronouncing his name. It may be Cliven, so please don't shoot me, but from now on, I'm going to be calling him Cliven, okay? Cliven Bundy. He claims that they have been grazing that land, the land that he is on, since 1877. Okay, that's the claim. Now, the Bureau of Land Management has only been around since 1946. So if his statement is true, the first and foremost thing, if his statement is true, although I have not seen any proof of this, then the land is not going to be, or should not be, considered public land. It should be a private homesteaded land with a claim that has, somebody has staken a claim to this land. Okay? So, if his thing is true, if what he claims is true about 1877, then the Bureau of Land Management has absolutely 100% should have no jurisdiction over this property. But that has never stopped the federal government before. They always overstep their bounds. Go figure. That's the federal government for you. Okay? But he has shown no proof in any public location. So I have seen no proof. So it does not mean that it's private. It means it could be. I want to see the proof, but no one in all the news and all the government, I have seen no one dispute the fact throughout the entire fight that no one has disputed this. So that should tell us a little bit of something about this whole Cliven Bundy thing, okay? If they're not disputing that he's been there that long, and I haven't heard that, well then why aren't they disputing it? Maybe he does have proof, and maybe I just haven't been able to find it. But according to the Bureau of Land Management and the state of Nevada, the land is federal land. Listen to that. According to the Bureau and the state of Nevada, it's federal land. All right? Cliven says he doesn't recognize the national claim, but he recognizes the state government. Well, if the state is on board with the federal government, with the Bureau of Land Management, then he's on board with the state, right? And state ownership. That's what I've been hearing. I haven't been hearing anything about private land. I've been hearing everything about it being state-owned land. And if the state is conceding to the Bureau of Land Management that this property is federal property, well, then the state says it's so. I didn't say it's right. I said it's so because the state is who he is saying has authority over this land, and the state is giving the authority over to the federal government, which gives it to the federal government. I don't like it, but that's the way it is. All right, so let's start off with a little bit of historical stuff, okay? Because this is like a 20-year fight, okay? In 1989, the U.S. Fish and Wildlife Services listed the desert tortoise. That's what this is all over. This is all about a desert tortoise. They listed it as an endangered species. Only 1 year later, they changed it to a threatened status, not endangered. In 1993, his permit was revoked for grazing his cattle and for not paying fees. Okay? These fees were purchased by Clark County, the state, and the reason why they did that is because they were wanting to remove grazing off the land. All right? This is Clark County. Here's the thing. We don't know if he ever paid a fee. Okay? If he has paid a fee, or if his family has ever paid a fee on this land, they have already acknowledged the government's ownership on the land, and if they never paid a dime, then, they have a little bit of a leg to stand on. But the fact is if they have paid any money, then when they made those payments, they acknowledged the fact that someone else held authority over that land. Or else, why would they pay them? If they're not in charge, why do you pay them? I mean, seriously. Even if it's a mafia family, you pay a mafia family off because they hold some authority. All right? Even if the authority is to break your legs. So, if they paid a fee, they acknowledge the government's ownership of the land, and they really have no argument. Okay? So, assuming that the 1877 statement is true, then, and the fact that he never paid a dime, or his family never paid a dime to the government, then we can say that he has a good footing to stand on. He never treated this land as fully private, so they can't give all this crap about him using it as his own private land. No, there's been off-road vehicle users, mineral miners, I think some mountain bikers out there. A lot of people have been using this land, not just him. And people have left his cattle alone, and he has left the other people alone. So, all because of this freaking desert turtle, they want to get rid of public use of this land that is causing complications to this turtle, endangering the turtle's life. All right, it's been claimed that this fiasco can be linked. This is just claims, okay? They have absolutely no proof of this. But it has been claimed that this whole ordeal, all right, may be linked to bombs that went off in the U.S. Forest Service in Carson City, Nevada, all right, in 1995 and in 1996. One of them was in 1995, and two more was in 1996. And they tried to link this to the fight that they've been having with Cliven all this time. No one knows if they're related. And it could just be some nut job that's sympathetic to his cause. All right? It could be any of those. Some crazy person may actually see what Cliven is dealing with, may be sympathetic to it, and then he goes crazy and does all this. That Cliven should have absolutely nothing to do with that, okay? And because they couldn't prove it, well, then, they can't link it to it, so that is really just hearsay, and it's not evidence in any means. It's not evidence at all. All right, moving on. The next thing that I have knowledge of is in 1998, an injunction was filed against Bundy, and it was issued by a federal judge. Let's capitalize that. A federal judge, okay? He claims that, that the federal government has no power and they have no legitimate claim to the land. So a federal judge has no real clout. All right? So Moving on to 2002, another rancher, all right, near Bundy, dealing with the same issue with the federal government, was tried and sentenced in a federal court for the same exact stuff. In 2009, signs get posted all over the public land in that area that says it's off limits, and most of those signs have been chainsawed down or are full of bullet holes. In 2012, the Bureau of Land Management decides to round up all of Bundy's cattle, but abandons the plan, and the Center for Biological Diversity, a.k.a. the yuppie liberals for desert turtles and saltless slugs, they file an intent to sue against the Bureau of Land Management because they canceled their plans to round up Bundy's cattle. So a bunch of liberal pieces of crap decide to sue a federal bureau because the federal bureau decides that they're not going to impede on someone else's cattle. Okay, let's say that this land is his. These people are mad because they're not impeding on his rights. And if the land isn't his, and it's the state or the federal government's, then because they decided not to be total jerkwads, these people are mad and they file a lawsuit against them. All right? 1 month later, because of this lawsuit, I assume, the Bureau of Land Management files a complaint in federal Las Vegas court seeking an injunction against Bundy. 9 months later, in February 2013, there are a bunch of big arguments between a lot of ranchers and hunters and that of the eco-friendlies, or a.k.a. desert turtle hippies, to determine what is better for extinction, the prevention of animal extinction. All right? Remember, if you pay attention to permaculturists, most of them will tell you that they can rehabilitate a land and bring diversity into a property by raising cattle. This is the backward thinking of the government. Let's stop raising cattle, stop getting nutrients into the ground, because there's no way that the cattle that he has in that much land is doing damage to the land. All right? But there are people in permaculture that what they do is people actually pay them money to bring heavy amounts of cattle into a property to rehabilitate it. And when they're done, the property flourishes and the diversity of animals is outrageous. And here we are getting rid of a few hundred cattle on, I don't even remember how much it is, but thousands of acres. A few hundred cattle on thousands of acres. Like, you know what? I'll get to that here in a minute. Let's see. In August 2013, he is given a court order that he has 45 days to remove his cattle from federal land. Once that 45 days is over, in October of 2013, a federal district judge orders Bundy to stay out of the way while the federal bureaus take his cattle. So this guy's supposed to stand aside while they impound his cattle. Now around March 15th, 2014. See, this is just now making news, people. It's April. Why the crap is this just now making news? I want you guys to also pay attention to what might be happening that they are not talking about on the news. All right. In October 2013, they told him to stand out of the way while they took his cattle. Next, around March 15th, 2014, the Bureau threatens to take his cattle. All right, so this is what? 6 months later, 5 months later, something like that. And then on the 27th, they closed off 322,000 acres, and they prepared to take his cattle. And he, Gardner, and probably a couple other people, but he, Bundy, with the support of Gardner, files a notice at the county sheriff department. The name of the notice is Range War Emergency Notice and Demand for Protection. So he's basically demanding protection from the county sheriff. Clark County Commissioner Tom Collins calls the Bureau of Land Management action a fraud. If I think back correctly, I think he said something about it being a bigger land fraud than people being sold swampland, something like that. Anyways, I guess that really doesn't have a whole lot to do with it. But April 1st, 2014, the Bundy family bunker down, waiting for the Bureau of Land Management. Lots of protesters on both sides are taking civil action. On April 5th, they began rounding up the cattle. And actually on my blog, and I might think about it on my show notes, but on my blog, I actually did this on Wednesday, the 23rd. And I have a picture of them taking his cattle. And no joke, they're just freaking killing and burying the cattle on the land. Like, this is the cattle, this is free-range, grass-fed beef that people pay premiums for. All right, people are paying premiums for this beef, yet now what does the government do? Instead, on top of how ridiculous this whole thing is, okay? I know I'm nitpicking, but think about this. The cattle that they take, they're killing and burying, and they're not even giving the meat out. They're just burying it. All they want to do is make a point. So they're killing it and burying it. So April 5th, they begin rounding up the cattle, and on April 6th, his son gets arrested for refusing to disperse. And then he gets scuffed up a bit. He shows up with scratches and stuff like that. And the Nevada Cattlemen's Association decides to be a bunch of spineless people, and they distance themselves from the ordeal for obvious reasons. They don't want to be in a debacle with the federal government, okay? So on April 9th, 2 members are injured against a confrontation, or they're injured again in a confrontation, and his son, not the other son, but this son, a different son, gets tased because he kicked a police dog, so he got tasered. Okay? So a day later, April 10th, a protest camp started forming, and militiamen have been showing up to a public call. He announced publicly for people to show up, and militia from across the country starts showing up. Now, oh boy. All right. Listen to this. I fully disagree with this, okay? These freaking idiots, all right? I agree I think I take the side of Bundy right now, but the militia actually made plans to put women on the front line of the confrontation so the feds would be broadcasted shooting women. Are you freaking stupid? Let me pause for a second. you're going to put a bunch of women on the front line. All right. Now let's stop right here. Women can do just as well in battle as men. All right. But the fact of the matter is my guess is most of the women that they're talking about are going to be housewives that are not trained in any type of battle, and they're going to put them on the front lines so that they can be shot at, and so that the freaking feds or the Bureau of Land Management gets caught shooting women on the front line. Are you ridiculous? Are these women anybody's wives? Who's this freaking messed up? Who's this stupid? All right, I don't know who in the world is in charge, but on April 10th, you decide that you're going to put your women in front? I'm going to get off of this. Just let that sink in real quick. On April 12th, the Bureau of Land Management stopped seizing cattle. That's 2 days later. They had already gotten rid of a lot of them, though, by the way. April 17th, Harry Reid calls supporters. He calls them domestic terrorists. Excuse me. Domestic terrorists. Terrorists don't congregate and set up to defend a property. They attack in secrecy. They don't congregate around one property to defend it. Terrorists don't typically set up a defense. They usually go on the offense. That's why they're terrorists. Terrorists are bullies. If anybody's the bully, it's going to be the Bureau that's the bullies. So don't you ever call these guys domestic terrorists. Now, they do some retarded stuff, like putting women on the front lines, but that doesn't make them terrorists. What makes them terrorists is if they go behind the lines and they start capping people off in secrecy, and like serial murderers. That's what makes them a terrorist. If they freaking did a bomb in the middle of Las Vegas, that would make them terrorists, not protecting land, not defending something that they believe is theirs. All right? If you invade another country, you're more a terrorist than they are. If you invade somebody's property, you're more of a terrorist than they are. They're the defense. All right? So, Harry Reid, shut your mouth. Rand Paul, being the libertarian-ish guy he is, he attacks the government because he says that they overreached and they overreacted over this Endangered Species Act. And I agree with him. Now let me throw some opinion out there. Hold on one second. I got somebody knocking on the door. All right, I guess my wife heard me and she just went away. All right, so let me throw some of my opinion out there. Both sides are both sides are idiots. Not everybody on both sides, okay? I don't want to say that everybody's idiots, okay? Bundy may be a very intelligent guy. He may just be defending land. I mean, he's defending something that feeds his family. I would do that. But some of the militiamen that are coming in, I mean, they're freaking idiots. And the federal government, we all know that we already know that they're freaking idiots. I mean, I kind of don't want to side with either one of them. But I can't tell you which one I would honestly side with because I'm missing the two main facts. Did Cliven have proof of the land prior to the foundation of the Bureau of Land Management? If that proof is there, it should be privately claimed land. And is there proof on either side? Now, I don't know why Cliven would come up with this proof, because I would see this proof as proof against him. But does either side have proof that Cliven made payments at all prior to the ceasing of the quote, ceasing of payments, unquote? I think that the federal government is once again overstepping and shouldn't even be in the business of land management. If government should manage the land, and I'm not saying that they should, all right, but if you are someone who is a statist that believes in state government, then if the government should manage the land, it should be each state, county, or town. Nevada essentially, though, gave the Bureau of Land Management position to have this land and to manage it. And at that point, in our current system, not the way I believe it should be, but in our current system at that point, the Bureau of Land Management has legal rights over that land. Notice how I didn't call it moral. A gunfight over a turtle. Are you nuts? I know at least on the defense side, on Bundy's side, this is all about rights and land and land ownership, and about the federal government trying to use its power to bully someone else. But on the side of the government, they officially want a gunfight. They officially are destroying someone's way of life over a turtle. Now, who is James Yeager? Because I mentioned him earlier. He is actually a guy that is here, that is typically here in Tennessee, and believe it or not, I am actually going to be doing some training at his place. But James Yeager is a tactical trainer, all right? And I already said earlier, let me go ahead and look at that again. James Yeager has the company Tactical Response Gear, and he's actually here in Tennessee, a little bit south where I live, okay? James Yeager is in my neck of the woods, and he was hired on for security. Now, I think publicly he said that he was going there just for videoing and stuff like that, and for social updating and stuff, and he did a lot of that. But he was hired on for security. Most people know that. And in security against the federal government, when they have tactical weaponry, I mean, you're not doing security at that point. You are defending your position in a war, in a battle. So I really, he is well versed in combat, but I really can't agree with him getting this involved unless he has more information than I have. If he has, James, I don't think you listen to my podcast, but if you do, if you have more information than I have, please go ahead and give me a call at 978-KNOWS-IT. That is 978-KNOWS-IT. KNOWSIT. All right? Give me a call and let me know the facts that I don't have if you have them. But if you don't have any more information than I have, then I can't agree with you getting involved in this. And that doesn't mean that I don't respect you immensely, and that doesn't mean that I'm not looking forward to training with you. I really am. But here's the thing. I don't have any more information than what I'm giving you guys, and I looked a lot. So it's not from a lack of looking that I don't have this information. So James, if you have that information, hook me up. If somebody else has that information, hook me up. I want to see it. The militia, all the militia is just proof that people are fed up with governmental tyrants destroying liberty. They're tired of the government overstepping its bounds and destroying our freedoms. And I fully agree with that. I'm tired of it too. They probably, some of them probably don't even care what the fight is for. They just feel that they need to fight for liberty. So all they have to do is have something to fight for, and they're going to fight for liberty. Okay? They're just looking for something to fight on. I want you guys to go ahead and give me your opinions and your facts. I'm pretty much at the end of this episode, and like I said, all of this was just, I made the decision 5 minutes before I started to start talking about this, because if I didn't talk about it today, I wasn't going to, because this isn't going to be news before too long. It'll be over with. It won't be news, and people will go back to something else. So I just thought I'd get these facts out to you guys. I don't agree with the government at all, the way they're handling it, and I don't agree with I don't agree with what some of the militia said. With things like put women up front, freaking morons. Anyways, that's the end of the podcast, and I really hope you guys tune in next week. I know that this is a little bit different of a podcast, but I just felt that I needed to do this one instead of my podcast on chicken. So look forward next week to my podcast on chicken. Well, everybody, I'll talk to you next week. This is Ken.